Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry.
Where it's going, no one knows. Hello, Wisconsin!
Now, filling in for the new mom, here's Jane Matinaire.
Good morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin, 6 minutes. After 10 o'clock, got a full crew today. Calvin is on the board. Greg Bach and my friend and colleague Carol Kane with me live in studio. And you at 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. All kinds of things coming up on today's show. Joining us this morning at 10:33, the one and only Pat Kreitlow from Up North News.
Up North News,
Up
indeed.
North News is going to be joining us. He had a wonderful article about the Farm Bill and what that means for Wisconsin farmers.
Okay.
It does a lot of good things. So he's going to join us to kick that around a little bit. Coming up at 11 o'clock, as always, public service announcement with Dr. Kristen Lyerly. There's a new study about those of us who sit a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Not good for you.
No.
No. And then we'll probably
But
talk.
it's so good.
I know. I talk about vaccines.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yep. This is the time you want to go get your flu shots and your COVID shots. And I did this on Tuesday, and there were more offerings than I had ever had before.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to her about that. If you ever have any questions for Dr. Lyerly, you can always text them at 844-967-2789 or shoot us an email at asgoeswisconsin.civicmedia.us. And then sports coming up at 11:33. Greg, your friend Rami Maklouf.
Makloff.
That is exactly
I'll intro him.
what I meant to say. Rami's going to join us at 11:33. He's a Cubs fan and a Bears fan.
He is indeed. And he sent unsolicited text messages all early this week. And
I'm still in a state of shock. I cannot believe he decided to go to the Cubs.
I know.
Really? Of all
The places.
the places. Yes.
It was interesting watching some of the news reports the day that broke,
Yeah.
and like at the 6 o'clock news, and they were interviewing some fans, and it is remarkable how much we take this to heart. There were these guys like, I just can't process this right now.
I mean,
I
honestly,
just can't.
any other team. Really, I mean, a little less if it was the Cardinals. I'd been pretty angry about the Cardinals.
But the Cubs is just a slap in the face.
The Cubs are a slap in the face. The Cardinals are a sock in the gut. They all hurt.
Well, the thing is that, they make their own bed. When the Cub fans come into town, they're notoriously unruly and,
Obnoxious and loud and drive too fast and make fun of a city that they take advantage of every time they're here. And they're not really from Chicago anyways. Sorry.
All right, then. That will be coming up later on in the program.
Got a little upset.
That's okay. Wanted to start off, though. There was another Republican presidential candidate debate last night with Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott, Chris Christie.
And the boots.
Oh, and Ron DeSantis. Thank
These
you.
boots are lifted for walking.
Thank you
and
very
that's
much.
just what he'll do.
And it was kind of, I did not watch the whole thing, but I've read a lot of recaps this morning.
Yeah.
And so just for some different points. So Ron DeSantis, in his first answer of the night, said Donald Trump failed to build the border wall he promised, racked up federal debts, and set the GOP on a path of electoral defeat, including the losses they just had on Tuesday night in Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, particularly regarding abortion. Quote, Donald Trump is a lot different guy than he was in 2016. He said Republicans were going to get tired of winning. Well, we saw last night, I'm sick of Republicans losing.
I mean, really, one of Donald Trump's biggest crimes against this country is the fact that he set up a political landscape in where Ron DeSantis thought he could run. It should be a higher bar. I mean, can you imagine being Nikki Haley and Chris Christie, two people who have worked really hard to be in government? I disagree with a lot of what they think, but then they have to debate these three other people who are clearly not qualified to be on the same stage as them. And that's the landscape that man designed.
That is the landscape. Nikki Haley, for her part, attacked Trump for shifting his approach to foreign policy, as well as dwelling on his own legal problems and grievances. Quote, he used to be right on Ukraine and foreign issues. Now he's getting weak in the knees and trying to be friendly again. I think we've got to go back to the fact that we can't live in the past. We can't live in other headlines. We have to start focusing on what's going to make America strong and proud. Then Chris Christie jumped in talking about Trump's 91 charges that he's facing in upcoming federal trials. He says that should disqualify him. Quote, anybody who's going to be spending the next year and a half of their life focusing on keeping themselves out of jail and courtrooms cannot lead this party or this country.
Don't deny that.
There are, but yet that doesn't seem to be an issue.
Well, can I just say this? I don't know why in the world, when they're trying to distance themselves from Trump, why was the opening question about Trump?
Because that wasn't their decision.
No, I realize that. But it's just like, why did we even bring him up at the very, very beginning?
Because he's the front runner by a mile.
And he's not there.
And he's not there.
No, I know. He's holding a rally someplace else. But
you can't ignore him.
No, I'm not going to say we have to ignore him, but why is that the opening foray? I just don't get it.
Because from a rating standpoint, people are going to watch that debate for probably about 20, 25 minutes. And then they're going to switch channels because it's not that interesting.
It was 2 hours.
They have to open up with something big and strong that's going to splash against the headlines that people like us are going to talk about on the radio. That's what they got. They can't bury that as the last question. It has to be the first question. And that's just from a rating standpoint. I've seen it done in debate prep too. You got to get the biggest answer
out
up
first.
Front.
That makes sense. And again, he's ahead by what, 30 points?
Yeah. He's way up there.
By all of these other people. So some of the other commenters I've seen this morning were surprised that none of these other 5 are coming down harder on him and trying to distance themselves from him. So it's this weird line that they have to walk of trying to set themselves apart and yet not alienate all the support that he still has.
Yeah.
There was a little hot exchange between Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley over TikTok. So Ramaswamy is pro TikTok. Nikki Haley thinks it should be shut down. Ramaswamy then brings up Nikki Haley's daughter for having posted on TikTok. And this is what Nikki Haley said, quote, Vivek, leave my daughter out of your voice. You're just scum. Isn't that mouth? Isn't it leave this name out of your mouth?
Keep my daughter's name out your mouth.
Out your mouth, not out of your voice. It was so close.
Well, I mean, she's a dork. So
and her daughter is 25. But anyway, one of the really interesting things I take away from this is Chris Christie coming out about Social Security. And here's what he said. The fact is, on Social Security, it was established to make sure no one would grow old in this country in poverty. And that's what we have to get back to. Rich people should not be collecting Social Security.
Okay.
I find that fascinating, and I'm really curious how you feel about it. 844-967-2789, 844-96-party. Should there be means testing?
I don't know how you can do that.
By taxes. If you look at the person, how much they tax, I mean, their taxes can show how much they make. Isn't that something they could do? And then attach that to like whether or not they got social. I don't know. I'm that's a question, really.
But I don't know how you can deny. I really don't.
If they've been paying in all their lives, right? Like everybody else.
That's the thing is like, does a person who makes, and what's the cutoff? Like does he say what that number is, that magic number that would, is that
where is the cutoff?
Is that $500,000 a year? And also at the end of the day, it's the money you paid into it. I mean, I guess then at some point I should be able to opt out. If I know I'm making a certain amount of money
and I'm never going to get social,
I'm never going to get it, then pull me out of that system because I'm not, I'm going to save that money for myself. It may sound greedy, but if I can't have it eventually,
why should I pay in?
Why should I pay in? And now some people would say, because that's what you do for the fellow citizens. I think a lot of people who are rich out there are going to be like, I don't care about the fellow citizens, but I don't know. I really don't know rich people. So
Dexter from the 541 says Social Security, if you paid in, should you not get paid out? And that's a good question. But at the same time, then Christie talked about food stamps as an example, saying he may pay taxes that support food stamps, but he has never personally benefited from them. I've never had to have my family on food stamps, but I'm glad it's there so no one goes to bed hungry at night.
So what is
We need to be realistic, according to Chris Christie. There are 3 factors determining solvency: retirement age, eligibility requirements, and taxes. We're already overtaxed. So again, what should the retirement age be? It would have to be a negotiation with Congress.
Was there any clear-cut winner from last night?
I don't think so. Nikki Haley seems to be gaining more support, and she does seem to be setting herself apart a little bit from the rest.
Yeah, it seems like Chris Christie and Nikki Haley are always spoken about with regard to their grasp of policy. I feel like Ron DeSantis just doesn't have to be a creeper and he'll do well. And Vivek Ramaswamy, I just don't understand. Just drop out. Stop.
I don't understand him
Just
at all.
stop.
I just don't.
That is the prototypical rich guy who wants to say, like, I'll be president, because the guy who was just in office a couple of years ago was like, I'll be president.
See, I see Vivek Ramaswamy as the next inventor of like the Vegematic. He's a TV pitchman.
Yeah.
He's a TV pitch salesman.
He's an evil Elon Musk.
Order now.
Yeah.
I can just see him. Order now. If you order now, you'll get 2
You get a
for
copy
the price of 1.
and a copy of my book.
Exactly. He's got a big future for him. I just don't think it's in politics.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I hope not.
844-967-2789. 844-96-party. Should there be a means test for Social Security, as suggested by Chris Christie last night during the Republican presidential candidate debate? Texter, just because I currently make over $500,000 now doesn't mean I always will. That's true.
You can opt back. I don't know. And here's the thing is, me saying these things, I don't know. I'm literally throwing out all these different ideas because I get it. If you pay in and you never get it, that doesn't seem fair. Also, if you are rich and you pay in, you'll never miss it. Because honestly, at the end of the day, the total you're going to make over time is going to be nothing compared to your actual wealth if you are rich and or wealthy.
Absolutely. 844-967-2789. 844-96-party. If you would like to join the conversation, stay with us. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network.
So let's leave it low, 'cause we can't see eye to eye. There ain't no good guy, there ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, oh, oh.
The Shaw, WAUK.
This is Mean Gene Okerlund, and I'm talking with Brett Yulberg, owner of Robert Hack Diamonds. Brett, I hear you pay cash for gold.
Not only gold, but silver, diamonds in any form like jewelry, teeth, coins, flatware.
Why should I sell you my gold?
Why not? Our store is the only store that recommends you shop around before you sell. This way you know you're getting the most money. But if Robert Hack Diamonds can't beat a competitor's offer on your scrap gold, we'll give you $20 just for letting us try.
Hey, what if I'm shy?
You? Well, at Robert Hack Diamonds, we sit with you at a table. We go through your items and make you an offer. You're not pressured, and we offer more on jewelry that we can resell.
Can I trade my gold for a new piece of jewelry?
Of course you can, and not only that, we can custom make a piece of jewelry using your gold and gems.
Hey, there you have it, folks. Sell your gold to my friends at Robert Hack Diamonds. Visit them on 76th and Layton in Greenfield. Robert Hack Diamonds, where they want your business.
This is the Shaw, WAUK.
Just take those old records on the shelf. I said listen to
Good morning.
my
Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. 20 minutes past 10 o'clock. Jane Matnair in for Kristen Bry. Calvin on the board. I'm joined in studio by Carol Kane and Greg Bach. And you at 844-967-2789. 844-96.
Party.
Thank you, Greg. Talking about last night's Republican presidential candidate debate.
How many more do we have of these things?
I think there's
278,503, I believe.
I think there's 2.
2 more?
No, there's got to be more than that.
I'll
2 or-
check.
All right, Greg's gonna do.
Jack's gonna check.
He's gonna do research on that. Talking about Chris Christie last night, who mentioned that Social Security is not sustainable and that really wealthy people should not be pulling their Social Security. The fact is on Social Security, it was set up to make sure no one would grow old in this country in poverty, and that's what we have to get back to. I don't know if you're watching Warren Buffett. I don't know if Warren Buffett has collected his Social Security, but if he is, shame on you. So we're taking your responses at 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. Should there be means testing for...
Well, I'm not going to say no. I think, though, sometimes it's a personal responsibility of the individual. If they're completely fluid and they don't need it, then don't apply for it.
But
just let it go.
There's still going to be I paid into it. Why shouldn't I be able to collect it?
That's a perfectly valid argument too. The only side I have to that is like the super bleeding heart. Like, let other people collect on it because we know it's in trouble anyways. Is it? I don't know. They've been telling us for years, and then they stopped talking. Like, I feel like politicians over the past 10 years have really pulled back on Social Security as a major political talking point. They focus more on healthcare and other things like that. But like, is Social Security in as much trouble as they tell us? I don't know. Once again, I'd like to. Could there an expert tell us?
I didn't have any trouble applying for it.
But we're talking about like now
we're
my
talking about
my generation
people
and beyond.
Greg's age and people Calvin's age. Because Calvin's only 25.
Calvin, you're never gonna get it.
Well, and that would be a really sad thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would.
Because currently he is paying into it.
Yes. Texter from the 608 listening on WLAK. People only pay in up to a certain amount. So when they make a lot of money, they are not paying in on all of that.
Okay.
And is that where the formula comes from?
It doesn't sound like he's introduced an actual means test for this.
And our friend John from the Falls chiming in on the text line. Chris Christie mentioned, I want to make sure nobody's going hungry at night before they go to bed. Has Christie been sleeping in a cave for the last 40 years? Talking about a Republican out of touch with reality.
Yeah.
How about if we have means testing for the military, since they are currently getting more in tax dollars than the entire Social Security system?
Yeah.
We do have a pretty healthy military budget.
Yeah. Somebody text from 630. Calvin, start saving now. Let's start a 401k GoFundMe.
844-967-2789. Rico is on the line from Rock County. Good morning, Rico. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Rico.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
I just, this comment by Christie last night, I had to laugh about because it's just a glaring example of how far apart these Republicans are, even from each other. Because I just heard our Senator Rojo this last weekend say, the problem with Social Security is the poor people get back more than they paid in, but the rich people never get what they paid in back. And now Christie wants to even take all of it from him. I'm like, you guys can't even get on the same page. That's all I got to say about that.
All right, Rico, thank you so much for checking in.
There are going to be 4 total debates. We've had 3 so far.
There's only one more.
December the 6th.
And when is this?
December
6th.
next month.
On my birthday?
Yeah.
Well,
Happy birthday.
What
That's
a
what we
way to
got for you.
celebrate.
Happy birthday. That's what we got for you. We got you a GOP debate
You're welcome.
in Tuscaloosa. You're welcome.
Wow.
You're welcome.
I hope it
Okay.
fits.
Oh, my God.
844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. Tim from Eau Claire. Good morning, Tim. Thanks
Hi,
for joining
Tim.
the show.
Yeah, see, you're talking about rich people drawing Social Security. Well, here's maybe an example of a supposedly rich person who sounds like he's going broke. Mike Lindell might have to rely on that now that he's so far in debt and can't pay his bills. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Yeah, Mike Lindell is having a lot of problems. He spent a whole lot of money trying to prove that the 2020 election was stolen, and after 3.5 years, there remains no evidence at all.
He should get no Social Security because he's done this to himself. He should get nothing. Free pillows.
The one thing I do feel bad about, from what I understand, that isn't an employee-owned company.
How do you mean?
that the employees have a stake in the company.
Oh, you said it is an employee. Oh, okay.
I might be wrong about that, but I'm fairly certain. And so I would hate to see
Yeah.
his decision to go all in on this come back and slap them upside the head. But it will be interesting to see going forward if they're going to just keep taking the five. And now it doesn't look like, is Tim Scott going to even make the next debate?
That's the thing, is I was surprised he made it. I mean, he's barely been saying anything.
Yeah, he's been pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Although he did unveil the girlfriend last night.
Yeah, you did.
Her name is Mindy.
Aw.
There was a lot of questions about that. The guy's 47 years old. He's never been married.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there have been some eyebrows raised because
Who cares?
there are people who care and think that might be indicative of a different lifestyle choice.
I don't care what he does in his bedroom.
The GOP does.
Well, there are some.
Not necessarily.
There are some.
The powerful ones do, because they're the ones who have to defend him then. They can't have an
A gay.
openly gay senator, black senator from the South running for president. There's no way they can contain that in a box.
Yeah, but we had a gay individual at the last election on the Democratic side.
Well,
so I mean,
one that's Democrat, but who?
who
Drawing a blank.
Pete Buttigieg.
Thank
Oh,
you.
that's the
Buttigieg.
one.
Oh yeah, yeah. But that's the disparaging point between the two parties is that the liberals, the Democrats can do that. But even still, did he get elected? He didn't, because I don't think this country can come to grips with having an openly gay president or vice president.
Or atheist.
Oh no, atheist is even. Oh yeah, no.
Atheist, I can see for sure.
You can't. No, you cannot.
No. I'm saying no.
Oh, yeah.
I can,
Yeah, you can be openly gay and have two partners, and if you say I believe in God, you'll get elected sooner than an atheist. Period.
All right, we're going to be moving on when we come back. The wonderful Pat Kreitlow from up north is going to be joining us. You hear him every morning from 6 to 8 right here on the Civic Media Radio Network. He had a great article about the Farm Bill and what that would mean for Wisconsin farmers and how important that is. So I hope you will stay with us. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin, and we are on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Days of old, with that old time of rock and roll, still like that old time of rock and roll. That kind of music just soothes the soul. I reminisce about the days of old, with that old time of rock and roll. I still like that old time of rock and roll. That kind of music just soothes the soul. I reminisce about the days of old, with that old time of rock and roll. Still like that old time of rock and roll.
Whether you're heading down Les Paul Parkway or fighting traffic on the interstates, this is The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK. Did you know this local radio station is part of Civic Media? Learn more about the entire network at civicmedia.us.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Most voters in Wisconsin don't want new legislative maps before next year's election. That's according to the latest Marquette University Law School poll. 51% tell the survey Wisconsin should keep the current maps until the next U.S. Census. Democrats and Republicans have proposed drawing new legislative maps. The Wisconsin Supreme Court is expected to take up a lawsuit to change the maps before the 2024 vote. Senator Tammy Baldwin is trying to help more military veterans get the benefits they've earned. The Commitment to Veteran Support and Outreach Act would provide $50 million more each year for 5 years to hire county veteran service officers. Those are the people who work directly with veterans to let them know about their eligibility for Veterans Affairs programs. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now, here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. There's another in-person session in Waukesha today regarding the effort to get ideas about the city's future development plan. City Hall is the location for the event today. As part of the initiative, a survey has also been created, and a series of town hall meetings have been gathering thoughts. If you enjoy hunting but don't like to eat venison, you can donate your deer. Melissa Kay has more.
Since 2000, hunters have donated 98,000 deer, totaling over 3.9 million pounds of venison, to help stock food pantries throughout the state. There's a few steps to the program if you're donating. The donated venison helps individuals in local communities facing food insecurity.
Gas has been hovering around that $3 a gallon mark for about a week. AAA has the average today in Waukesha County at $3.05 a gallon, with a slightly lower price in Milwaukee County. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
Are you being offered a complete seed treatment package? If your seed treatment doesn't help against soybean diseases like white mold, sudden death syndrome, and rhizoctonia, then it's not complete. Heads Up Seed Treatment offers protection against all of these diseases through its unique mode of action, systemic acquired resistance. Don't get caught off guard in 2024. Get the best defense against the unpredictability of each season by completing your seed treatment package with Heads Up. Visit headsupst.com to learn more.
The Packers headed to Pittsburgh. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Packers working out in pads, getting ready to face the Pittsburgh Steelers, led by linebacker T.J. Watt. Matt LaFleur on what to expect Sunday.
They pride themselves on physicality, and it shows up all over the tape. They've got a lot of guys that they're big, strong, physical, and they made plays, when it matters most.
NBA, Milwaukee squeaked out a win, 120-118. The Bucks versus the Pistons. Giannis Antetokounmpo driving down the court, scores, makes a face at a Pistons player, ejected from the game. Giannis in disbelief. So was his teammate Damian Lillard.
I think it was a character building when you're down your best player in that type of moment where, you get a technical foul and then you get another technical foul and it was their ball. It's just when it rains, it pours. We had Tex, it was their ball. They had momentum. They was confident making shots. Even though we had a lead, the game was changing. And we know in this league, leads go away quick.
That's the Bucks' Damian Lillard. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Sunny skies this afternoon with a high of 51. Westerly winds 20 to 25 miles an hour. Lows around 31 tonight. Clear skies. Highs around 42 tomorrow. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 45 degrees.
RPG came through the belly of the aircraft. We don't talk about the female combat wounded. These are our daughters and our sisters and our mothers. Wounded Warrior Project came into my life and taught me how to stand back up and get back in the fight. The truth is, I think we all have this strength inside of us, but until you're tested, you just don't know it's there.
See how Wounded Warrior Project empowers women veterans like Beth by visiting woundedwarriorproject.org/empowerwomenvets.
Broadcasting to Waukesha at 101.1 FM. Broadcasting to Southeast Wisconsin at 540 AM. This is The Shaw.
Wisconsin, Jane Matt there, in for Kristen Bry, Calvin on the board. We have Carol Kane, Greg Bach with me live in studio, and delighted to be joined by our colleague and friend with Up North News Radio. Every weekday you can hear him right here on WAUK from 6 to 8 a.m. Pat Kreitlow. Good morning, Pat.
Hey, Jane. Hi there. And who's that familiar character? Oh, you again. How did this become the Greg Bach Radio Network?
No, he gets you again.
2 hours. 2 hours with me, some time with you. He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere. Kind of like Todd.
Just because you put glasses on, Pat, doesn't mean I'm just whatever.
Pat, I'm just curious. Carol and I both worked in morning radio for a really, really long time. Your show starts at 6. So what time do you get up?
Well, here's the thing. For years and years, you would have said, Pat, do you want to get up at 4 a.m. and do a 6 a.m. radio show? I would have said, I did that when I was very young, breaking into radio up in Rice Lake and in West Bend, and no thank you. But by the time this opportunity came up, a little over a year ago, I get up that early anyway.
Really?
I've probably gotten up maybe 2 or 3 times over the night. Do we really need to get into the explanation of why? And so I'm waking up that early anyway. Why wouldn't I want to get paid for it? So just take.
It really is a lifestyle that you do. You adjust to it. It's no big deal.
You can get paid for a larger prostate, and here we are on morning radio.
Well, then it all worked out well. It all worked out
did.
well for you.
It did. I love early morning radio. I listened to you two during my Milwaukee years a long time back. I did not think that I would be doing something at such an early hour again, but I have to tell you, it fell right into it, and just absolutely love it.
And I listen every morning on the way in as I'm coming out to the station, and you have wonderful guests. You cover wonderful topics because you are in Lake Wissota, right?
That's right. Fortunately, just alongside of it, not in it, but there have been threats from time to time. But yeah, just outside of Chippewa Falls.
So it's certainly a different kind of area than Waukesha, certainly a different area than it is in Milwaukee. And I think you have guests sometimes that bring different perspectives that we don't always hear. And you also have this wonderful website, upnorthnewswi.com. And that's where I found your article about the Farm Bill. Mm-hmm. And this is really, really important.
It's something that I would not have appreciated had I not first married a nice dairy farm girl from Manitowoc County, and second, been a working journalist in western and northern Wisconsin, where you can't help but understand how connected the farm economy is to all of Wisconsin, wherever you live. And it's not just the typical, it's because we eat food. No, there's a lot of economic reasons that tie us to good agricultural production or tie us to the bad times when farmers are dumping milk because the price is so low.
So the Farm Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, is reviewed and then renewed every 5 years.
Right.
So
and has been since the 1930s, I believe. It's a major package and it's designed that way, because imagine, a bill that was just for farmers. I mean, they were once the majority in America. Now they're 2% maybe of the population, and they'd be getting screwed over. And so instead, the Farm Bill ties together, the kinds of issues we think of in cities, like school lunches, for example. There are environmental programs in there for conserving farmland so that we don't lose everything to soil erosion. But then there's also a big part called rural economic development. And as you know, I served in the state Senate for a time. So did Julie Lassa from the Stevens Point area. Julie Lassa is now the Wisconsin head for rural development for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And so we've had her on a couple of times to talk about all of the projects that would not get done were it not for a robust farm bill that looked out for the entire country, not just, rural interests or urban interests.
And you're talking about all kinds of farmers. You're not just focused on the Farm Bill is not just focused on one kind of farmer.
Correct.
It covers everything, right?
It not only covers everything in terms of type, from, again, my wife milked 72 cows every morning before getting on the bus, and then 72 cows getting off before she went to do her homework. But now you've got these, mega farms with, 2,000 head or more. But it's also about other types of producers. And, not just milk, not just dairy, but let's take meat, for example. One of the things we always hear about, or have heard since the pandemic, is that there are basically 4 large companies that control a monster percentage of the meat packing in this country. One of the things you can do, and one of the things Governor Evers has done and that the Farm Bill can do, is throw more support toward local beef raisers and local meat processors. We all know, I think a lot of us know, if we're fortunate, some little butcher shop in the middle of nowhere where that's where you got to get your meat. There's one for me near Green Bay. And let's continue to help those because it provides more markets and therefore more competition, which is going to help farmers get a better price for the things that they do.
It really does seem a shame that our farmers just always seem like they get screwed on every turn. They do. The falling prices, and yet when you talk about the chicken producers, Pat, and the meats, these big conglomerates, things are great for them.
Things
But
are
for the-
always great for the middleman, and not always great for the consumer, and certainly not always great for the farmer. And you've really put your finger on it. It is about corporate power. We have guests on frequently where we talk about, again, trying to provide more competition and less monopolistic activity by these big companies. Unfortunately, these big companies have lobbyists who hang out in Washington, D.C. and try to influence what goes in the Farm Bill. And that, to bring it back to Wisconsin, is why we're watching Derek Van Orden so closely, the new congressman for the 3rd District in Western and parts of central Wisconsin. The Republican leadership gave him this plum assignment, putting him on the House Agriculture Committee. It's a big deal still in Congress. And, people are rightly asking, what is he doing? Has he been doing anything to ensure that Wisconsin farmers and processors and producers are less susceptible to, corporate monopoly type practices?
This really is, it's such an important issue because we've got to be seeing people just getting out of farming overall. Is there a trend happening like that?
Oh, very much so. And the trend can best be explained this way. The number of farms has gone down as families and small farms go out of business. And yet the number of cows, for example, has stayed pretty much the same, which means that we have fewer farms with larger herds. And that only happens if you're a corporate, factory size type farm. And I always like to point out to our audience that there's no need to be against factory farming if you treat it like a factory. Your typical factory can't just dump into the Chippewa River here. There has to be a plan for how they dispose of waste and byproducts and things. The same needs to be said about these corporate farms is, look, if you're going to operate, you have to do so safely. It has to be good for the environment, good for your workers, especially if those workers are immigrants, because there would not be a dairy industry in Wisconsin now if all the immigrants went away, because so many family farms are gone that the vast majority of dairy farm workers in Wisconsin are undocumented immigrants. We need them.
Are you finding that more farms are, and I only ask this question is because a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, he and his brothers run Crave, the Crave farm.
Okay.
And so I went to school with George Crave, and I know that their farm in like Waterloo or wherever it is like one of the only self-sustaining farms in the nation. Are you seeing that that's a trend too?
Well, to a degree. I mean, there's the farm to table trend is certainly one that benefits some folks. Just like organic farming was a trend that really helped family farmers in Wisconsin. They found that if they could learn the organic practices of farming, there would be this niche market where they could get higher prices. Unfortunately, part of the legacy of the Trump administration that doesn't get mentioned very much is they changed the definition of organic so that corporate farms could also say our products are organic too, cutting off another niche and another marketplace for Wisconsin-based small producers.
Our guest is Pat Kreitlow. If you're just joining us, he is the host of Up North News Radio. You hear him every morning right here on WAUK, Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 a.m. And we're talking about the Farm Bill and how important it is for Wisconsin farmers.
Going back to something Jane said about with regard to the politics specifically, I feel like the farmers are always being used as the eternal ping pong between both parties. The farmers just want to be taken care of and protected. And when the politicians go out on the campaign trail, they're standing in the farm. They got their arm around the farmer. They say how the farmers are the backbone of this country. We need to protect them because without them, what are we going to do for our food? And then they will walk into their office and they create legislation that totally works over the farmer. And actually, as I was thinking about this, Tony Zimmerman left a comment on the live stream and he said, Pat and Todd talked about Deb Andraka and that clip from the State House pointing out that the farmers are not getting the same deal as private school parents.
Oh, yeah.
They can't index the tax breaks. And for those who don't know, when you index the tax breaks, that means that you can
it's tied to inflation.
It's tied to inflation. So as you pay more in the taxes, it's tied to inflation. If you send your kid to private school through vouchers, you get to do that.
If the tax credit gets better. The
Yeah.
farmer, no. And so when Representative Andraka asked that in that moment, in a better time and place, one or more of the Republicans would have said, you know, you're right. That's a good point. We should do that. But now the environment is such that you can't say to somebody from the other party, there was that silence, which spoke volumes about your point, Greg.
Pat, I was genuinely shocked when I saw that clip with I don't have to answer you. I don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sit here until you decide that you're not going to get an answer, and then we're going to move on. It was really disturbing, and it should make people angry.
It should, because we have these things that obviously people appreciate and respect farmers. They expect our politicians should do the same. People like and appreciate conserving the land, not having it waste away. And yet Republicans in Washington are talking about cutting $50 billion from the next farm bill that is currently used in conservation programs. It's just a matter of respect that they're not getting that they should.
Do you have enough time this morning to stick around with us for another break?
I'd be happy to.
That would be great. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about what the farm bill does and what some potential changes could be coming down the road. And if you are a farmer and you'd like to check in, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
844-967-2789. 844-96-PARTY. If you are farming in Wisconsin, maybe you were a farm kid. Maybe you recently lost your own family farm because you couldn't make it anymore.
Right. I mean, you do feel for them because that is working for a living, man.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, that is hard work. And I couldn't do it. I mean,
Pat, did you have to milk cows when you first met your wife's family?
No, they were very kind. They actually wanted to get work done, so they just said, "Thanks. Why don't you go wait in the farmhouse over here while we take care of business?" So, I'm very grateful about that. But yeah, I'm still a city kid who just happened to marry extremely well when it comes to finding just a great Wisconsin family.
That's awesome. Well, stay with us. When we come back, Pat Kreitlow will still be with us. We're talking farmers. 844-967-2789. Don't go away. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Sing a song about the heartland, the only place I feel at home. Sing about the way a good man works until the daylight's gone. Sing the rain on the roof on the summer night, where they still know wrong from right. Sing a song about the heartland. Sing a song about my life.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK.
The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is here and ready to help. Anyone can call or text 988 or chat via 988wisconsin.org to get connected to a trained Lifeline counselor. Trained counselors are here to support anyone experiencing a suicidal, mental health, or substance use crisis. You can also contact 988 if you are concerned about someone. 988 is confidential and free to all Wisconsin residents. 988 24/7. Call, text, chat. Here to support you. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services.
It's the final game of the regular season, and Carroll University football is traveling to St. Louis to take on Washington University this Saturday, November 11th. The Veterans Day matchup with the Pios visiting the Bears, a team holding 19 conference titles and 45 All-Americans. Don and Johnny will have all the action live. Pregame at 11:30, kickoff at noon. The final game of the regular season this Saturday on the Shaw, WAUK 540 AM, 101.1 FM, and the Civic Media app.
The Shaw, W-A-U-K, K, 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 K.
Good morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. About 10 minutes before 11 o'clock. Jane Netnair in for Kristen, Bry, Calvin on the board, Greg and Carol with me live in studio. And we're joined by our colleague and friend, Pat Kreitlow from Up North News Radio. You can hear him every Monday through Friday right here on WAUK weekday mornings from 6 to 8 a.m. And we are talking about the farm bill that's still kind of in limbo, Pat, right?
Oh, very much so, along with everything else about the government. I mean, we're, 8 days away now from
the shutdown?
Another possible government shutdown. The previous farm bill has basically expired, so they have to decide, do we just extend what's happening right now? Because the farm bill is just one of many appropriations bills that have to be decided upon, and not just, what House Republicans want to do, but how they get along with a Democratic Senate and put forward this package and not, again, drag this thing out for months and months and months.
Going back to the House and House leadership, now we have Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House, but Jim Jordan, again, was up for that from Ohio. And one of the things that surprised me about him, because Ohio also has a very rich agricultural tradition, is it accurate that he never voted in favor of the Farm Bill?
Well, correct, because it spends money. And you just get back to that whole notion of there are people that believe you should vote no against spending any and all money to make some kind of a point. But that's politicking. That's not governing. Governing at some point says, okay, this is how we're going to help farmers. This is how we're going to increase exports. This is how we're going to pay our soldiers. So if you're one of those folks that just votes no for everything, in my mind, you're just not serious about governing. You're not serious about taking care of the farmers in your district.
According to your article that you had in upnorthnewswi.com, and I highly encourage you to check out the website, and we'll put it in our show notes after the show if you want the link to it. But can we talk a little bit about what some of the recent USDA rural development actions have done in Wisconsin, what they've accomplished?
Yeah, because we get off the farm and we talk about the other things that are necessary for our farms and our rural communities to survive. And that includes making sure that, there are good schools for farm and small town kids to go to, keeping up with infrastructure, bringing broadband to these areas. They need it every bit as much as any other place does. And so USDA Rural Development has done everything from provide, $7 million for a new wastewater treatment facility in Osseo to $1 million to help replace a health clinic in Mineral Point because the building it's in was constructed in 1880.
My God.
Yes. And there's a rural business development grant that's going to Chippewa County to provide technical assistance to small businesses and some of the small towns around me here. And then there's a lot, including not just from the Farm Bill, but from the Inflation Reduction Act to help farms adopt more energy efficient ways of operating, put in solar arrays, use biofuels, whatever the case may be, to, again, as they save energy, as they contribute fewer greenhouse gases, it benefits all of us.
And I think there might be a misunderstanding too, Pat, that there is a reluctance on the part of our farmers to adopt new technologies like that. And I don't think that's accurate.
It's not. What they don't want is a mandate saying you have to do this. And by the way, you're not getting a dime for it. You can do that, but it's a lot easier to start with, advice and then perhaps help with funding, either through, loans or grants, loan pools, things like that. Really the heart of the Wisconsin idea started with the University of Wisconsin taking its research and getting off campus and going out to farms and saying, hey, would you like to try this? And then if you provide some financial assistance to incorporate that conservation practice or that cleaner energy practice, they're more than happy to do that. Farmers want to be good stewards of the land. They just don't want to be, ordered around and taken advantage of.
Well, and as you said, and being told you have to do it this way, figure it out on your own. Good luck. We'll see you later.
Exactly. And so that's why, as I mentioned before, wanting to cut, so much money from conservation programs is going to have an impact, not just on that farm, but maybe on the nearby trout stream or the water supply for the nearest small town.
And that's what I also find baffling is the short-sightedness of some of this. If we don't protect these resources, if we don't protect our drinking water and our wetlands, it's not going to be good.
No, and there's no shortage of ways that water is threatened in Wisconsin. We'd like to think that we're like the headquarters of clean water.
Yeah.
But between, again, you've got fertilizer, manure, other nutrient runoff. You've got deep, high capacity wells. You've got PFAS that are industrial chemicals. You've got erosion. You've got lead pipes. There are so many threats to water quality that anything you can do to help stave those off or, remediate damage that's already happened is a net positive. And yet we have the darndest time getting people in the legislature and the Congress to support that.
But as you said too, Pat, shockingly, large corporations have sexy lobbyists who can go to Washington and take men out for dinner and have drinks and
have drinks, and then maybe after you have the drinks, you go out into the Capitol Rotunda and you yell at a bunch of Senate pages. But that is just
what
to
are you
say,
talking about?
That is just to say that Congressman Derek Van Orden should be hearing from Wisconsin residents, primarily in the 3rd District, but anybody who says, hey, you are Wisconsin's voice on the House Agriculture Committee. We need you to give Wisconsin farmers and our economic markets a fair shake.
Well, and it's been interesting since his little jaunt to Israel. He really hasn't been much in the news. Do we know if he's even back?
He's back.
He's back.
If you follow, I don't even follow him on Twitter. His tweets just pop up on my feed. He can't shut up there.
It was quite the photo op. There's a lot of photos of him in Israel. I'd rather see more photos of him on farms or at local, little local meat processors or whatever the case may be. He really has such an opportunity to do this, and yet he's not taking advantage of it.
Pat Kreitlow, thank you so very much for joining us. We must have you back soon. Listen to Pat every weekday morning from 6 to 8 right here on WAUK and across parts of the Civic Media Radio Network. Stay with us when we come back. Public service announcement with Dr. Kristen Lyerly. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network.
No hotter. I come home to the farmer's daughter. Yeah. The farmer's daughter. Yeah, baby.
Your home for the Devil's Advocates. Weekday afternoons from 4 until 6 on The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK. Did you know this local radio station is part of Civic Media? Learn more about the entire network at civicmedia.us.
Don't change the station, but do watch out for deer, would ya? They're running around all willy-nilly. It is the Craig's with me, Charlie Behrens, on Civic Media and the Civic Media app.
Roll into this Friday night and strike a chord of fun, food, and music at Foxview Lanes in Waukesha. The Friday night live music party kicks off at 8 p.m. and goes until midnight every Friday night. And the best part of this party, there's no cover charge. While you're having fun, grab dinner and take advantage of $2 off all sandwiches on Friday nights. This Friday night, dance to the music of Bail Jumpers. 2440 West Sunset Drive in Waukesha. Call 262-544-2010 or check out foxviewlanes.com. You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266DR Waukesha, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
CBS News special report.
We're hopeful things are moving along.
We're hopeful things are moving along, President Biden said as he headed to Illinois this morning. His administration says Israel will allow a 4-hour humanitarian pause each day in combat operations in northern Gaza to allow civilians out. CBS's Cammie McCormick.
They would announce the pause 3 hours in advance, this to allow civilians to flee. Israel is also opening a second corridor for Palestinians to head south. But the White House says more aid trucks must also be allowed in there.
President Biden said today he asked the Israelis for a pause longer than 3 days during negotiations over the release of some hostages held by Hamas. Correspondent Ramy Inocencio on conditions now in Gaza.
There are shortages and fights over food, water, fuel, medical supplies. The WHO is now warning of an outbreak of disease.
50 nations are attending a Paris conference on help for Gaza. CBS News Special Report, I'm Steve Kathan.
This is your hometown radio, Refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Republicans in the Wisconsin Assembly are trying again to create a sweeping tax cut that's similar to the one Governor Evers vetoed out of the state budget in July. It would cut $2 billion in taxes by dropping the state income tax rate to 4.4% for people who make as much as $405,000 a year. Evers has said it benefits too many people at the top and not enough in the middle. Enrollment is up at the universities of Wisconsin for the first time since 2014. It says more than 1,700 more students are enrolled than last year. There are now a little more than 162,000 students enrolled at state universities throughout Wisconsin. 10 of 13 four-year schools are seeing increases, but enrollment at two-year branch campuses is down again. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. The revised Brewer Ballpark funding deal doesn't bring down the Milwaukee throw-in. The latest plan has a ticket tax and reduces state funding, but the Milwaukee and Milwaukee County contributions remain the same. A Senate committee recently approved the non-game ticket tax, resulting in the state's contribution towards American Family Field being less than $400 million. The leading Republican in the Wisconsin Senate aims to hold a vote on the ballpark plan in the upcoming week. A Milwaukee County-run organization is helping inmates for their post-prison life. The Milwaukee County Community Reintegration Center is offering a new welding program for inmates to help them gain skills for trade jobs after their sentences are over. The program is said to allow inmates to focus on something productive and escape from the challenges of incarceration. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
Earl Ingram.
If all the other things globally aren't enough to give us pause, healthcare premiums rose 8% this year. And so corporations are starting to feel the strain of offering health care to their employees, and more of them are abdicating that. What are people to do?
The Earl Ingram Show, weekday mornings 8 to 10 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
The Bucks get the win, but Giannis ejected. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks beat the Detroit Pistons 120-118. In the third quarter, Giannis brought the ball down, made a signature dunk and celebration. He gets called for a technical, his second of the game, and was ejected. The Bucks' Brooke Lopez asked what was going on.
You know, we felt there were a lot of questionable calls, but you got to fight through that. And the way Giannis got kicked out, we obviously don't think that was great. But whatever, we turned it into a positive. Sucked not to have him out there, but it was a great opportunity for us to play pretty much solely with Dame, get him more used to us, get more used to him, and a lot of other guys.
Football, a lot of teams in the NFL now doing the tush push, lining up players to push a teammate across 4th and short for a quarterback sneak. Green Bay tried it over the weekend against the Rams and was asked, was it called the Packers push? Right guard John Runyon.
I've also heard the love shove too.
That's the Packers right guard John Runyon. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Your hometown radio refreshed. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. High temperatures reach up to 51 this afternoon under sunny skies. West winds 20 to 25 miles an hour. Tonight, lows around 31. High of 42 tomorrow. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 45 degrees.
Earl Ingram.
Clearly, at this point, what is going on in Congress and the importance of the speaker, that's always been a high-profile position, Sandy. Why can't we get that fixed?
The problem really comes down to the problem we have within the parties. Not only are we highly polarized between parties, but we seem to be highly polarized within party as well.
The Earl Ingram Show, weekday mornings 8 to 10 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
Keeping Southeast Wisconsin informed, engaged, and entertained. This is The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM. WAUK.
From the Civic Media Radio Network, moving Wisconsin forward one joke at a time. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry.
Where it's going, no one knows. Hello, Wisconsin!
Now, filling in for the new mom, here's Jane Matinaire.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin, November 9th. Beautiful sunny day. Jane Matinaire in for Kristen Bry. Lots of company. Greg Bach and Carol Kane with me live in studio. And it is time for our public service announcement with our friend, Dr. Kristen Lyerly. Good morning, Dr. Lyerly. How you doing?
I'm so good. Hello, everybody. Isn't it great to be here together, Greg, for the second time today?
Hi.
And I don't know if we should probably avert our eyes.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if we can actually look you directly in the eyes anymore if you have handlers now that because you have reached star status.
I was on John Oliver's show on Sunday, which is it was a 7-second clip, so I guess I've made it.
That's 7 seconds more than any one of us in this room.
Absolutely. That was so cool when I went back on Monday and I watched it. It's like, that's our friend.
Do you know what she during the show? She was on Pat's show this morning, and then she just, the HBO thing is one thing, and then we were talking about, various health. We were talking mental health in the elderly. Just whips out a story. I was at the White House with the president.
But it illustrated the fact that Joe Biden is in his right mind and he does not appear to have any issues. So it counters all of those conservative talking points. I wasn't doing it. Oh, come on, Greg.
Just casually name dropping. Well, I was hanging out at the White House.
I was on the moon last Thursday.
Well, congratulations to you for making that appearance on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. That was pretty cool.
And congratulations to all of us for the election results on Tuesday that clearly show that the will of the people stands with where Democrats are headed. And, I know we try not to be partisan. At least we try to be fair and even. But man, Ohio, everything that they did to put barriers in people's way in Ohio and to prevent them from being able to pass this constitutional amendment. And the people of Ohio were not fooled. They were out there in force, standing up for themselves. That's what we're going to do in Wisconsin in the fall.
And it wasn't just Democrats because they did exit polling in Ohio. There were, not a huge number of Republicans, but I want to say it was 17%. And something like 55% of independents voted yes on issue 1. So this is a banning abortion is not a popular opinion, but I think, Kristen, and I just saw this morning in Michigan now, because Michigan also did something similar with building this into their state constitution. In Michigan now, they're going to try and go around the will of the voters and are essentially saying the voters don't get to make up new laws.
Yeah. Well, they're going to try everything. They're going to pull out all the stops. But what we've seen consistently, and you're right, it's not a Democrat-Republican thing. A lot of those independent voters tend to vote with one party or another. But what we're seeing is this is about our personal freedoms. This is about other people telling us what we have to do with our own bodies in our own lives. And people don't like it. It doesn't matter what party you typically align with. It's not right. So we're seeing it change, and we will see it change in Wisconsin. I sincerely believe that.
Yeah, again, it's remarkable to me to see some of the comments made by some of these predominantly male white politicians, and they're stunned that at least 50% of the population is a little ticked off that they're trying to be stripped of their bodily autonomy. I know it's shocking, but yeah.
And it's way more than 50%. I can't tell you how many men approach me and say, what can I do? I just feel, they feel marginalized in many ways. I don't know, Greg, maybe you can speak to this. They're like, I'm not a woman, but this is just, it's so hard and I want to be part of the solution.
Well, but I would think a lot of them have women in their lives and they respect them and they want to do, I know my husband would cross across a field of broken glass if I needed help, so I think that's a lot of guys about why they ask that, what can I do? Because they have women in their lives that they love.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing too is that, it's been discussed at for a great while, is the fact that these sorts of laws, proposed laws, they have effect on men too. They affect everybody, period. And to say, well, I'm not a woman, so I don't care. Then I was like, as Carol has said, then you don't apparently have a woman in your life that you care about, or just have basic human decency. Because if they can do this, then what's next? If they can do that, then what's next after that?
And just because they didn't do it to you,
exactly,
doesn't mean the next thing isn't going to be about you.
I mean, perfect example. Right now, it's happening in Michigan. They overturned. They ruled on Dobbs. Michigan said, nope, we're going to do it we're going to have access anyways. And then the government says, well, we don't think you know how to do laws. And that 10th Amendment, the Constitution, we'll get around that.
Mm-hmm. We saw that in Ohio as they were approaching this last ballot initiative. They had the other ballot initiative to change how they run ballot initiatives.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're just pulling out all the stops. But I think one of the other things that's really important to acknowledge is that their messaging is so far off the rails when they say things like Democrats want abortion all the way up until the time of birth and even beyond. Like, that's just plain a lie. And it's crazy. But what people are also hearing is Republicans aren't expanding Medicaid, so postpartum women aren't getting health care, and that's when women die related to pregnancy and childbirth. So there are so many things we can do better.
And because our maternal mortality rates are going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, that ties into one of the things that I put on our list to talk about today, which is syphilis. We talked about syphilis in the past. There's new data out on syphilis. In the last 10 years, we've had an 11-fold increase in the number of babies that have died as a result of syphilis infections. And it was almost eliminated 20 years ago. When I was going through medical school, we talked about it. We knew how to screen for it. We knew what it was. We knew how to treat it, but we never saw it. I've seen more syphilis in one day in the last couple of months than I did my entire career before that.
So, and what is the change then, Dr. Lyerly? What changed over those 20 years?
Well, really what I think it comes down to is public health. We don't have, COVID happened. A lot of people weren't getting the healthcare, the screening that they needed. And also we've had drug shortages. We've had people who do not have access to healthcare. Most of these people have either no healthcare during their pregnancy or inadequate healthcare during their pregnancy. It's really hard to screen people for diseases like this if they're not coming in to get care, and they can't come in to get care if they don't have coverage or access.
Well, and you know what? It's kind of like that. Nobody wants to talk about it because it's uncomfortable. And the thing is that knowledge is absolutely power. And you need to get this word out so that women who may be exposing themselves to unhealthy practices, if you will, can know what the consequences might be.
And they may not even know, Carol. They may think that they are in a safe relationship. They may not have any symptoms. It may not even be on their radar, but they still could end up in this situation. And I have seen that personally.
Dr. Kristen Lyerly is our guest every Thursday at 11:06 for Public Service Announcement, talking about Tuesday's election and the results specifically related to abortion in this country. But going back to something that you said a little bit earlier, these healthcare deserts are a problem and a growing problem, including here in Wisconsin. So women, men, anybody, you have to drive an hour and a half away, right? Or longer.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the maternity care deserts. We've lost half of our rural hospitals in Wisconsin in the last 20 years who deliver maternity care. So women are having to drive further and further to deliver their babies. And I don't know if you're familiar with how labor goes, but sometimes it can be pretty unpredictable. I've definitely taken care of people who have delivered on the side of the road. I've talked with EMT people who have been called to cars as they're trying to get there. The classic thing is like the person pulls up into the valet area of the hospital and we run out and there's a woman looking shocked with a baby in her pants. I mean, this happens because people have to drive so far to get to deliver their baby. And when you're having to come in once a month for your regular prenatal care, and then it's twice a month, and then it's 4 times a month as you get closer to the end of your pregnancy, those are a lot of visits. That's a lot of time away from work. That's a lot of time that you need somebody else to watch your other kids. It's really hard to get that care if it's not local and convenient for you.
To tell you the truth, I was a terrible pregnant girl. I really
shocking.
I know, right? But both my pregnancies. So to address what you're saying, both my pregnancies were problematic. I really had difficulty carrying my children. So if I'd had to drive a long way,
Can you imagine if you had a 2-hour drive? Just for an appointment?
No, I mean, because I was posed at least at one point in time with the amnio that came back, and the woman who read the amnio said to me, "You've got 2 days to make a decision as to whether or not you want to continue with this pregnancy, because once you hit 24 weeks, you're done. Nobody's going to touch you." And it was one of the most traumatic moments of my life, but I was at least lucky enough to be able to be someplace where my doctor was, maybe a half an hour away, maybe.
Carol, I'm so glad that you mentioned that because this is happening more and more. And here in Wisconsin, even without this 1849 ban, we have a 20-week ban that's actually dated by post-fertilization age in the books, which is not even a real thing. But it means that people come in for their ultrasound, typically around 20 weeks. They may find out that their baby has a problem. They've got an incredibly short window to make decisions. They may be making decisions because they're feeling stressed and pressed and they don't have the resources around them to help them make that decision and to see what the future might look like. This is one of my greatest concerns. Patients, people who are looking at the future of their family need time. They need support. They need resources. They don't need politicians in their exam room saying, "I need you to make a decision right now."
And this is where finding the right physician for you is so incredibly, what's the word I'm looking for? Important. It's so incredibly important because, to tell you the truth, once I got that phone call, I called my OB and he was the greatest. He goes, "No, you're not doing anything." He says, "You're just going to be," and he couldn't have been more supportive of me. So this is where you really this is an important thing. You got to take some time and find the right physician for you.
Dr. Lyerly is going to stay with us when we come back. The importance, of moving.
What? Oh,
you got this.
As we're all sitting around in our chairs, stay with us. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network.
AUK.
Robert Hack Diamonds pays cash for your unwanted gold, silver, and even diamonds. That's right. Robert Hack Diamonds wants to make you an offer on your gold, silver, and diamonds. The process is very simple. No appointment needed. Just come on in, sit down in a nice, relaxed atmosphere, and the staff of Robert Hack Diamonds will evaluate your unwanted gold, silver, and diamonds and make you an offer on the spot. Then you can decide if you want a deal or no deal. Robert Hack Diamonds can also convert your old jewelry into into something new or trade in your outdated pieces for something new and exciting. Many people inherit jewelry that might not be your taste, but you are sentimental. Why not have Robert Hack Diamonds take the golden gems and create something for you? So many options at Robert Hack Diamonds. Again, Robert Hack Diamonds pays cash for your unwanted gold, silver, and diamonds. See them in Brookfield, just east of Moreland on Greenland Avenue, or 76 in Layton, right on the corner in Greenfield. RobertHackDiamonds.com.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK.
Good morning. Welcome to Asgos, Wisconsin. Jane Matt-Mayer in for Kristen Bry. Greg and Carol in studio with me. Calvin is on the board, and we are joined every Thursday at 11:06 for public service announcement. If you ever have a question for Dr. Lyerly, you can certainly text it in or call at 844-967-2789. Before we talk about exercising, I want to go back. I want to go back to something you mentioned in the previous segment about the GOP presidential candidate debate on Wednesday night. And this has happened many times. And every time I see this on television, I am screaming at the television saying, that is not a thing. And I'm referring to abortion up to the moment of birth and after. That is not a thing, Dr. Lyerly, right?
Abortion up until the moment of birth and sometimes after only exists on conservative talk radio and television. It does not happen in the real world.
I mean, if you are going, if it is necessary to have a procedure to save the life of the mother, I always thought it was called palliative care. If you are in your ninth month of pregnancy, it is. I just don't see a woman coming in at that point and saying, "Yeah, I changed my mind." No, it's because something drastically has gone wrong.
100%. The vast majority of abortion care happens very early in pregnancy. And the further you get along in the pregnancy, the more likely this is actually a wanted pregnancy. And you're bumping into problems, whether they're maternal problems, like women can have problems with their blood pressures even before they hit that point of viability where a baby can survive outside of its mother. Women can have lots of other issues. I mean, there are women who they go into pregnancy knowing that their lives are at risk, but it means so much to them. But they do it knowing that they're being monitored very closely. And if they have a status change, that they've got options. And that's a rare circumstance. I mean, obviously, there are many different scenarios here. But once you get to that point of viability, if there is a delivery, a palliative delivery or a procedure, it's because there is something very wrong. And these are heartbreaking situations. I mean, I can tell you about a family that I delivered at 32 weeks because their baby had a genetic kidney problem and it was a non-functioning kidney. The baby had no fluid around it, would not have survived. And so we did everything that we could. We surrounded them with support, faith leaders, family members, so that they could make the decision about what the best thing was for them right then and into the future. And we delivered her at 32 weeks knowing that their baby was going to die. And they held their baby as he died. And we all got to go into the room and meet him. They were so proud and so happy. And, we shared our blessings. And I mean, can you even imagine being in a situation like that? And then to hear and to have this in your history and to hear these people on TV just repeating this like a slogan. How painful is that to real people who have experienced these traumatizing situations? Shame on those conservative talk radio hosts and TV hosts for doing this.
And yes, those moderators should all have to be, I want to sit them down and we're going to have a chat, because they should be calling them out on this. Letting them spew this BS, I'm sorry, is infuriating.
Mm-hmm.
Abortion up to the moment of birth and after is not a thing. It's just not. Okay. All right.
Now we can talk about exercise.
Yes, let's talk about.
we don't have to. We can talk about other things if we want.
Let's talk about how we need to get off our butts and actually move, and it really is very important.
It is, because too much sitting increases your risk of death by 38%, or at least a recent study. A recent study out of the US and Scandinavia of about 12,000 people, where they looked at these people carried trackers around, like either Apple Watch kind of things that tracked your movement or something similar. And so they knew how much they were getting up and moving. And then they looked at death records. And what they realized was people who who spent more than 12 hours a day sitting have a 38% increased risk of death unless they get at least 22 minutes of exercise every day.
22.
That's very specific, Doc.
Well, yeah, because these are data people, so they're looking at all the different points and they're trying to figure out like what makes the most sense. So to me, if I was talking to my patient about this, I would say just try to get 30 minutes a day. Pick something that you love. You don't have to like go to the gym and be super hardcore. Like go for a walk after dinner, hop on your bike. If you've got a treadmill in your garage in the winter, pop on a TV show and just, move your body a little bit. It does make a difference and it doesn't have to be grueling.
It is not a tough formula. Eat less, move around more, and you're gonna be healthy. That's all there is to it.
I don't like any of this. I like sitting and eating.
But what this makes me happy in that it's not you all need to work out for an hour and a half a day, and you should be doing this and this, and it with everything else in people's busy lives. That is just too much to take on. It is. But if we can break it down into go for a 25-minute walk, go for a 30-minute walk once a day, 4 times a week.
It doesn't even have to be like all in one block. Like you could get up during your lunch hour and just walk around for 10 minutes and sit back down again, Greg.
What is with like seriously? You just like last show we were doing this every time. Every time makes me feel so syphilis. Greg, what's that about?
I love you, Greg.
I love you more. Whatever. Ugh.
I'm just wondering because I got a Pat mentioned this about runs to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I was up at least 4 times last night. Can I add those all up into like a 3-minute walk?
That's it. Next week, we're talking about bladder health because it is Bladder Health Month. That was a cry for help from Jane. Did you all hear it?
But as I get older, I get up in the middle of the night. I do go to the bathroom, but I feel like if my body is waking me up to go to the bathroom and I go to the bathroom, I make it and I do my thing and I come back and go back to bed. I feel like that says a lot about my body versus waking up the next morning being like, well, I wet them. I feel like there's.
But it
I
doesn't
feel like my
count
body's
towards your
healthy because
exercise.
it's properly getting myself to the bathroom to use it and then go back to bed, I don't know.
And maybe we'll talk about prostate health too next week.
And
there you go.
Can we also talk about sleep? We got to talk about sleep.
This is where getting a dog could be very helpful because you got to get them out and you got to get them exercise and they love the company, as do you. Just that's what I used to do with my dogs. I'd walk them all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the other side of the coin with the responsibility that a pet does carry, but yet at the same time, if I never got Beauregard and Sydney out, I'd be way fatter than I am right now.
Let's double down on the goodness of a pet too, because that feeds your heart. As long as it's like a good relationship with your pet.
Yeah.
I mean, that can also be really good for your mental health. So really, the key is finding the thing you love to do and doing it. Maybe it's going for a walk with your friend in the morning. Maybe it's you have a pet. Maybe it's you have a TV show that you watch every day. Whatever it is, just do it every single day. And pretty soon you'll find that you miss it when you don't do it.
Dr. Kristen Lyerly is our guest every Thursday at 11:06 for a public service announcement. You can always text in your questions at 844-967-2789. Thank you so much,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Lyerly. We will see you next week.
See you, Doc.
Let us know
For
if you're
bladder health.
for bladder health. Let us know if you're going to be on any nationally syndicated programs. All right, stay with us. When we come back, we're talking all things sports. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Hit me with your best shot. Hit me with your best shot.
The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Senator Tammy Baldwin is trying to help more military veterans get the benefits they've earned. The Commitment to Veteran Support and Outreach Act would provide $50 million more each year for 5 years to hire county veteran service officers. Those are the people who work directly with veterans to let them know about their eligibility for Veterans Affairs programs. Baldwin says she hopes it passes by Veterans Day. Most voters in Wisconsin say they don't want new legislative maps before next year's election. That's according to the latest Marquette University Law School poll. 51% tell the survey the state should keep the current maps until after the next U.S. Census. The Wisconsin Supreme Court is expected to take up a lawsuit to change the maps before the 2024 vote. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. Milwaukee's Inspector General has recommended charging the city's attorney and his deputy for engaging in off-the-clock work. The Inspector General's office has urged the district attorney to file charges after uncovering evidence that Chairman Spencer permitted his deputy to conduct private legal work during official city hours. Both implicated have been accused of failing to fully cooperate with the investigation. If you enjoy hunting but don't like to eat venison, you can donate your deer. Melissa Kay has more.
Since 2000, hunters have donated 98,000 deer, totaling over 3.9 million pounds of venison, to help stock food pantries throughout the state. There's a few steps to the program if you're donating, or you can make a monetary donation through your Go Wild account. The donated venison helps individuals in local communities facing food insecurity.
And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
The journey to a smoke-free life can be difficult. Kick the habit with the help of Vape Walkie. Vape Walkie isn't just a vape shop, they're a community, and their knowledgeable staff can assist you in finding the perfect products to suit your needs. With a wide variety of vaping products at the best prices, they cater to everyone from novices to cloud enthusiasts. Mention this ad and join the rewards program to receive 100 free points when you sign up. Vape Walkie, 215 Oakton Avenue, Suite C in Pewaukee. Call 262-696-6620 or log on to vapewalkie.com to find more.
The Bucks get the win, but Giannis ejected. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks beat the Detroit Pistons 120-118. In the third quarter, Giannis brought the ball down, made a signature dunk and celebration. He gets called for a technical, his second of the game, and was ejected. The Bucks' Brooke Lopez asked, what was going on?
You know, we felt there were a lot of questionable calls, but you got to fight through that. And the way Giannis got kicked out, we obviously don't think that was great. But whatever, we turned it into a positive. Sucked not to have him out there, but it was a great opportunity for us to play pretty much solely with Dame, get him more used to us, get more used to him, and a lot of other guys.
Football, a lot of teams in the NFL now doing the tush push, lining up players to push a teammate across 4th and short for a quarterback sneak. Green Bay tried it over the weekend against the Rams and was asked, was it called the Packers push? Right guard John Runyon.
I've also heard the love shove too.
That's the Packers right guard, John Runyon. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
The Civic Media Network of radio stations across Wisconsin. It's your hometown radio. Refreshed.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. High temperatures reach up to 51 this afternoon under sunny skies. West winds 20 to 25 miles an hour. Tonight, lows around 31. High of 42 tomorrow. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 46 degrees.
Roll into this Friday night and strike a chord of fun, food, and music at Foxview Lanes in Waukesha. The Friday night live music party kicks off at 8 p.m. and goes until midnight every Friday night. And the best part of this party, there's no cover charge. While you're having fun, grab dinner and take advantage of $2 off all sandwiches on Friday nights. This Friday night, dance to the music of Bail Jumpers. 2440 West Sunset Drive in Waukesha. Call 262-544-2010 or check out foxviewlanes.com. Waukesha, home of Les Paul, our awesome farmers market, and The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get
I'm Matt Mayer in for Kristen Bry, joined by Calvin on the board, Greg and Carol with me in studio, and a special guest of Greg Bucks.
Yes, a good friend of mine, comedian extraordinaire and sports radio guy here in Milwaukee. Rami Makloff, welcome to the show.
How are we? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great to have you. Well, for those who don't know Rami is a stand-up comedian. He's a good friend of mine. We've worked on shows all over the area, but he's also a sports fanatic. We don't share the same taste in teams.
We do on some teams. I'm a Bucks fan. I've grown to love the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay, all right. Well, you're getting there.
I'm wearing my hat right now. Look at that.
I was surprised you didn't rock a Cubs hat, honestly.
I thought about it, Greg. I didn't want to poke the bear too much in my first appearance.
but also, like you've been on sports talk radio, and you've got a lot of great opinions on the topic of Wisconsin sports, and I wanted to bring you on because
some would disagree with you that I have great opinions.
Those people are wrong.
Might disagree with you. Okay,
they're wrong.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, let's actually, I wanted to talk about, just kind of go through the gamut of the teams, but I really want to talk about what happened last night at the Bucks game, which is Giannis getting ejected for what seems like the most infantile. It was dumb. It was dumb.
He didn't do anything. That was the craziest part. Like, he didn't do anything that I haven't seen in an NBA game before. You know what I mean? And the NBA this year has been trying to crack down on these minutes restrictions and load management that these teams do with their superstars, where they'll just sit them on random nights because they want the battery to be charged up when the playoffs come. And for the NBA to crack the whip or bring down the hammer when it comes to that, and then take one of the top 3 players, if not the best player in this league, in front of his home crowd and eject him early in the game for something as small as that is just crazy and hypocritical. And I'm not a guy who sits here and is like, refs need to be punished. They got a tough job, and we all mess up at our jobs from time to time. You know what I mean? But when just sheer ego or incompetence leads to something like that, and Milwaukee Bucks fans sitting there not seeing Giannis for 2+ quarters because the referee made a terrible decision, is inexcusable. And that ref, there should be some kind of punishment for that ref if they're serious about NBA fans getting the most for their money and seeing the superstars that they paid to show up and see, when he didn't do anything to deserve an ejection right there.
Well, and Rami, from what I understand, because I didn't see the game myself, but it was basically over a face. He made a face, right?
Yeah. He dunked hard and he mean mugged, which we've seen Giannis do many a times. And his mean mug happened to be pointed in the direction of the guy whose face he just dunked on moments before. And he didn't even hold it. He didn't even hold the mean mug on the guy. He looked at him for less than a second, turned around, and mean mugged his way down the court, as we've seen him do many a time, and never get a technical foul for it.
Here's what I don't understand is that the bravado is there for sure. How, you kind of want to see that. Now, I don't want to see him get ejected, but at the same time, it's like, don't take any guff. It's fine. That's part of the deal.
Yeah, I say this all the time. I have no problem with emotion and celebration being a part of sports. Like they're literally games that these people play for our entertainment. Dunk and do you know how much I would celebrate if I could dunk a basketball one time? not even as hard as Giannis does, and not even in an NBA game. If I could just go to the park and dunk one time, I would be obnoxious. You'd have to give me a technical foul for the way that I would celebrate. I say celebrate your dunks, toss your bats when you hit home runs, do a dance when you score a touchdown, entertain me. If that's what you feel like you need to do, then do it to entertain me.
Well, speaking of touchdowns, let's move on. But I was going to say, we'll go to a park. I'll bring a ladder. You bring the basketball. You can dunk all day, buddy. So I feel like you are. So I'll full disclosure to everyone listening. Rami is a huge Cubs and Bears fan.
Yeah,
and one thing that the Packers fans could always rely on is our ability to, no matter how bleak it feels like for us, we're not the Bears, but I feel like this is a year where Bears fans and Packer fans can get together and be like, ooh, this is rough. This is a rough one.
Yeah, but I wouldn't expect it to last, Greg. Packers fans aren't used to this. And in all my years on sports talk radio in Milwaukee, I would always tell Packers fans, and I didn't mean this in the insulting way that it comes off or that most people would associate with this word, but y'all were spoiled for a long time with a run of Hall of Fame quarterback play and contending teams. You know what I mean? And when you're used to that, when you're used to a certain lifestyle, it's hard to digest and process what is going on right now. I wouldn't jump off the train, whether you're talking about Jordan Love as a potential franchise quarterback somewhere down the line, the Packers being back in contention before very long, because it's a well-run, I would even say top-notch organization as far as NFL teams go. And that's not easy for me to say as a Bears fan, but I don't deny reality, whether we're talking sports or politics or anything else. When the truth is ugly, I look at it and I go, damn, that's ugly, but that's the truth. And the Bears are not. The Bears aren't going to turn this thing around anytime soon. They've broken Justin Fields like they broke Mitch Trubisky, like they broke Jay Cutler, like they've been breaking quarterbacks my whole life. The Packers actually know what they're doing with a quarterback and with an organization. And I think that they'll get the most out of Jordan Love. And if that's not enough, they'll go get another guy and they'll get the most out of him. The Packers know what they're doing. And look, they're not going to contend for a Super Bowl this season, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the mix for a playoff spot before all was said and done and give you some meaningful, entertaining football to watch in November and December. And moving forward into the future, they'll get it right, and they'll be back atop the NFC North before long, as much as I hate to say that.
we're talking to Robbie McLaughlin here. We're talking all things Wisconsin sports. And, that's the one thing, like, I not as a huge football fan, I do agree with you that Packers fans were incredibly spoiled. And the one thing that is very much frustrating, especially as a Brewers fan, is how so many of them, like within the first 2 weeks, like last year, they're just, we're going to do this. And then as soon as it's over, they're like, all right, next season. And as soon as they start sucking, they're like, well, it's a rebuilding year. I don't even watch it anyways. I don't really care. Jordan Love, we'll see what happens. Like, they're so quick to be like, toss it aside.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's like it wasn't too long ago that you were here, that you were watching Aaron Rodgers as a first-year starter after you showed Brett Favre the door to make way for him. You know what I mean? And it wasn't pretty. A lot of it wasn't pretty. Aaron Rodgers' first year as a starter. I don't care how good you are. And look, Jordan Love comes with questions. He wasn't a guy that had no holes or flaws in his game when he came out of college. People are wondering about the draft pick back then. So I'm not saying he's a surefire guy that they've hit on and he's your next franchise quarterback, but he wouldn't be the first guy to go through some struggles and some growing pains. And honestly, I see a lot of things from him that you don't see in a lot of first-year starters. When you talk about the accuracy, when you talk about the decision-making, but there are going to be growing pains for a guy starting in the NFL for the first time. And on top of that, a lot of young guys around him. When you look at that offense, they're going to have to find the right mix of players, and they're going to have to find what works for Jordan Love and go from there and get better from there. And I have a lot of faith in the brass up top and in Matt LaFleur and his staff that they'll get that right.
Well, and Rami, you are absolutely right. We have such short memories. We have such short memories about even the first season with Brett Favre and how he would come out and it was like the pitcher in Bull Durham. You never know. You never knew where the ball was going to go. It's like it could hit the mascot.
But the problem is with Brett Favre, that wasn't just a first-year problem. That was a problem every year.
But my bigger point is, again, we forget those early seasons with a new quarterback and just think that they were always, everything was hitting on the money all the time. And that's just not what happened. It's just not. We're going to move on to the Craig Counsell leaving. Carol is still processing this news.
I'm really upset. I cannot believe it. And I don't care that you're a Cubs fan because I'm not. And I cannot believe that Craig Counsell is going to Chicago. It's just unfathomable to me.
I couldn't believe it either. I couldn't believe it either. When I saw the news, I had just gotten out of the shower and I picked up my phone and I just had a screen full of notifications of people saying Craig Counsell to the Cubs, and I couldn't process it at first. I was like, as the manager, they have a manager. They didn't fire David Ross. Was he going to come and play shortstop? What do you mean Craig Counsell to the Cubs? I didn't think the Cubs were in the market for a manager, but the truth on all three sides of this thing, what is this? And I'll address the Brewers part of it first, which is people hated it when I said this about Aaron Rodgers leaving the Packers, Devontae Adams leaving the Packers. The Brewers had their chance. Craig Counsell was in the building.
Oh,
and
sure.
they could have made Craig Counsell very happy with what he was paid, with the resources that he was given to win with. And they didn't. They let him hit the free agent market. So that's one side of it. From the Cubs side of it, like I said, I didn't think they were looking for a manager. But if you ask me, and I've seen a lot more of Craig Counsell than I have most managers around baseball, but I don't think tactically there's a better manager in the game. And then you look at the other side of managing, which is, having the right mood, the right tone, the right vibe in a clubhouse, which he also seems to have mastered that. And when it comes to Craig Counsell, I know it hurts, man. I know it hurts. This is the Wisconsin kid, the Whitefish Bay kid. He grew up in the Brewers organization with his dad being part of the front office, played there, came back to manage. And that's a tough pill to swallow. But at the end of the day, this is a job for this guy. This is a job. And he didn't have to move that far to make 40% more money and to have a lot more resources at his disposal to be successful at that job. I am on As Goes Wisconsin today. If any one of you got offered 40% more and probably 2, 3, 4, 5 times the resources to be good at your job than you are getting now, I would be on As Goes Illinois. I wouldn't be on As Goes Wisconsin. you know what I mean? So I don't think you can fault Craig Counsell for taking the gig, man.
No, absolutely not. In fact, I saw a poll, J.R. Radcliffe, who's a regular contributor here on the show, asked, if the Brewers win a World Series in the next 2 years, are you still going to be mad at Craig? And I responded, I said, I wasn't mad at all. I stopped being mad at him like 12 hours after the fact because I realized this isn't a Craig Counsell problem. This is a front office Mark Attanasio problem. They have every ability to pay this man, and they didn't. They let it go to waste, and they lost him. And where we go next, I'm sorry, it's not on the players and it's not on the coach. It's on the front office's shoulders now because they didn't properly prepare.
Rami, and from some of the things, sorry, real quick, just from some of the things I've heard today, and I think J.R. Radcliffe was one of the people who's reported to this end. It sounds now like with the departure of Craig Counsell, the Brewers might be ready for a rebuild when it comes to the players on the field. And I just don't. Man, you're asking for money for a public stadium. You just let the hometown hero walk away to the rival to be a manager. I don't know how ready Brewers fans are going to be to swallow the pill of a rebuild and a team not trying to contend starting next year. I would be concerned about attendance at AmFam Field if I'm the marketing and PR team for the Brewers out there.
Well, we just hope, Rami, that you can talk to all the other Cubs fans about their behavior when they come to AmFam Field for the first game of the season next year, because I'm sure they're going to be gracious and really cool about it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Sweet.
Yeah, no doubt.
Thank you so much for joining us. We will be right back. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin. You're listening on the Civic Media Radio Network.
It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for your men to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. Let's get ready to rumble.
The Shaw, WAUK.
Did you know there are some secrets behind the long-running popular Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert?
Organized chaos.
That's my favorite kind of show.
It's the best show ever.
Al Petrelli is the music director, guitarist, and an original member of Trans-Siberian Orchestra. TSO kicks off its winter tour in Green Bay November 15th.
Not only is there 2 shows in Green Bay on November the 15th, there's a show in Council Bluffs, Iowa on the 15th.
But that's not all. In 46 days, TSO has 104 shows.
This thing grew up. It opened its eyes 28 years ago. It has grown up and broken every rule.
Breaking rules by taking 2 TSO bands on the road to perform in 2 cities almost every night. The tour ends in Milwaukee, 62 cities after Green Bay. One other secret, every stop includes a portion of the ticket sales given back to local charities. Learn more at trans-siberian.com. I'm Terry Barr.
This is the Shaw, WAUK.
Now Picasso said in 1910, I'm gonna paint me a man.
Good morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. Thank you for joining us on the Civic Media Radio Network. 10 minutes before high noon, we have the noon news coming up, followed by the wonderful Todd Alba show from noon to 2 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. Calvin is on the board. Greg Bach and Carol Kane in studio with me, and we'd love to hear from you as well. 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. Rami was really fun.
Oh, he's great.
That was fun.
And he's a fantastic comedian
Well,
too.
and you know what? It's all in good fun. You know, he doesn't care that I don't care for the Cubs. He doesn't care at all. And that, you know, you got to root for your team. That's all there is to it. If you like them, fine. If you don't, fine.
Little friendly rivalry. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Of course.
All right. Calvin had the great setup music, and we're going to switch gears just a little bit. On the one hand, the SAG strike is over, which is good.
Right.
But we were talking about Picasso off the air.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
This Picasso painting.
130. Is anything worth $139 million? I don't understand. First of all, I'm not an art aficionado by any stretch of the imagination, but this is one of the ugliest damn things I've ever seen. For $139, can somebody explain to me why Picasso is so respected I don't get it.
I am not an art historian either, and I just from what I understand, and if anyone knows more about art, we would love for you to chime in on this at 844-967-2789. He brought a different style, right? It was the abstraction. It was abstract.
You saw his evolution too, and he was also one of the great artists in our real time. Like Picasso was alive. Generally, I don't know this in the 20th century,
right?
And you saw his progression from one period to another period, and he was an outgoing fella, and he was filmable and all those things, and I think he added to his lore. I think if Picasso lived 200 years ago, I don't know if he'd be as popular.
I just don't think I'm smart enough to figure it out.
But
I don't get Jackson Pollock either. You know, that looks like somebody, just threw up on a canvas, or you just start, and it's like, well, watch this arc of this color and that color. Okay, I could go and throw stuff on a canvas.
But they did it first. That's the thing. Like someone like Jackson Pollock, I have to believe, took the idea of just painting waterfalls and painting cubes. He said, I don't want to do any of this anymore. I want to do this. And for some reason, but and people bought it. They understood it. And like, I agree with you, Carol. I look at art and I have to try really hard to be like, I understand why people might like this. But at the end of the day, the art world is also kind of a scam. Like, art is done by artists. It's taken to like studios or places to be
galleries.
Galleries. And someone who with influence can say, oh yes, I like Jane is an amazing painter. And because you trust me, Carol, as a gallery owner, you're going to say, well, Jane must be an amazing painter.
You need to have the first Janesy.
The first Janesy is $20,000. And you're like, well, I'll give you 50. And then from there, in 20 years,
the value
it might be
250,000.
I mean, the art world is a scam, and it's an amazing scam because it's just so hoity-toity.
Well, and it's who gets to decide this value is assigned to this thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's almost arbitrary, really, when it comes down to it. There is talent, people, but there are people out, I mean, dare you say there are people out there in the world right now that we will never hear of who are more talented than all the greats.
I've seen some things that show up on my Twitter feed that have blown my mind. I mean, people decorating little teeny miniature boxes with
Right.
entire landscapes and things like that. So I would agree with you, Carol, that Picasso, that style it doesn't speak to me.
No.
It doesn't touch me.
No.
It doesn't, even at the art museum in downtown Milwaukee, and I went not too long ago, and there's the more modern art wing. And isn't it, there's just one big red dot
Yeah.
on a big
Oh,
white
I've seen
canvas.
that. I've seen that. Yeah. Or where you just have a line that goes down the middle and the bottom is one color and the top is another color.
Yeah.
It's like, what, huh?
You can't make me understand why that's important. Like, at the end of the day, I'll be like, I guess it's important because you said so, and I'm not invested in that world enough. But yeah, when I see it, I'm like, I have more interest in the janitor statue that scares me every time I go. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
There's the
Oh, the
statue of
man.
the janitor.
Oh, yeah,
And you
yeah.
always, you turn the corner and there he is. Like
Yes.
you've never seen him before. Scared the poop out of you.
But that, you know what? Isn't that fun? It's funny that though that resonates, right?
Yeah.
That resonates more than the red dot on the
Sure.
on
Yeah.
the white board.
Right. I mean, I'm much more traditional, honestly. We were talking off the air before we even get started. You know, Andrew Wyeth to me, I get it. I see she's sitting in a field with waving grass. I got it. My favorite Andrew Wyeth is the dog on the bed because I can relate to that.
Right.
It's like, okay, I get that. Norman Rockwell, I've got my Day at the Vet that I bought years and years ago. And it's this little boy holding his little puppy. I get that. That's not, I get that.
But that's the thing is then you get art. Just because you don't get that art, the art that you have at home, you get that.
Absolutely.
It connects with you. Not all art is meant to connect with everybody, but all art needs to be understood as far as its importance as set forth by other people, I guess. But you have your art at home. We have our art at home. That is hard to say. We have our art at home. And you know what we choose to put on our walls is what speaks to us,
Right.
and what we want, and the message we want to speak to other people. Even if it's you know, I think that means that in your way, my way, Jane's way, you understand art.
We have a great text from the 224. Scott in Chicago says, when you go to an art gallery, you are simply a tourist looking through the trophy cabinet of a few millionaires. A quote from Banksy.
Oh,
Not wrong.
no,
No, not wrong at all.
and you all saw what he did a couple years ago with one of his paintings.
Is that the one he shredded?
Yeah, it was amazing. But people said that's part. But see, the thing is, that's the funny thing is, once it's shredded at the auction,
Right.
that's what he did. He built a frame with a shredder in there, and once they
Sold it.
clacked it down, they said, "All right, sold for I think it was like 5 point something." Someone hit a button and it started shredding the actual painting inside the frame, and then stopped halfway through, and people went crazy and wild. But they said that increased the value of the whole thing.
That's going to wrap it up for us. Stay close for the noon news, followed by the Todd Alba Show. I hope you will join us again tomorrow morning, starting at 10 o'clock. This is As Goes Wisconsin. You are listening to the Civic Media Radio Network.